While you're busy snoozing your alarm, someone, somewhere, is running the world by 5 a.m. And guess what? That someone can be you. Not because you're born different, but because you decide different. This is not about waking up early. This is about owning your life before the world even blinks. This is the 4 a.m. mindset. And these 5 tips, they'll flip your reality. At 4 a.m., the world is still, the noise is gone, no notifications, no emails, no drama. It's just you and your truth. This silence, it's not empty, it's powerful. It's where you hear what the world drowns out all day long. Your intuition, your ambition, your soul's voice. You see, silence is not loneliness. It's a luxury most people never experience because they're too busy running from themselves. But in that early morning hush, when the city sleeps, you come face to face with who you truly are, without masks, filters, or pressure. That's your raw power. That's the version of you that dreams loudly, but whispers so gently that only silence can carry her voice. Think about it. How often do you really sit with yourself without distraction? Most people only meet themselves in the mirror while brushing their teeth. But when you give yourself silence, you give yourself space. Space to process. Space to plan. Space to finally ask, what do I really want? And the answers? They never scream. They come like a breeze, a thought, a vision. And that's why most people miss them. Because they're too loud to listen. Take the example of a woman juggling a 9-to-5 job, 2 kids, and a side hustle. Her day is a storm of expectations and obligations. But at 4 a.m., when the world hasn't started demanding her energy yet, she pours a cup of coffee, sits with her journal, and breathes. That 30 minutes of silence, it's her sanity. It's her strategy room. And in that silence, she makes decisions that don't just get her through the day, they change her entire trajectory. Now think of an athlete preparing for a championship. While others are still asleep, she's at the track, alone. Just the sound of her feet hitting the ground and her heart pumping purpose into her veins. That silence is sacred. No fans, no pressure, just her and her vision. In those moments, greatness is born. Not when the spotlight is on, but when no one is watching. Because silence isn't just peaceful, it's productive. Even in heartbreak, silence becomes your healer. When the calls stop coming and your bed feels bigger than usual, 4 a.m. teaches you how to sit with the pain without letting it define you. You stare at your ceiling and realize your worth was never based on someone else's ability to see it. That moment, right there, it's a rebirth. And it only happens when the world shuts up long enough for you to hear the truth. You were always enough. Do you know why billionaires, artists, warriors, and sages all wake before dawn? Because they understand something most don't. Silence is a sanctuary where transformation begins. You want clarity? Get silent. You want strategy? Get silent. You want self-respect? Sit in silence and ask yourself, why do I keep accepting less than I deserve? You'll hear an answer if you dare to be still. The silence at 4 a.m. doesn't lie. It doesn't flatter you. It doesn't distract you. It just reflects you back to yourself. And yes, sometimes it's uncomfortable. But so is growth. So is evolution. That's the price of rising. That's the fee for freedom. Every empire begins in silence. Every painting starts with a blank canvas. Every song with a moment of quiet. Every decision with a deep breath before the leap. You can either fear silence or master it. Because when you do, you don't need noise to feel alive. You don't need applause to feel worthy. You don't need company to feel complete. You'll wake up at 4 a.m., feel the silence wrap around you like armor, and say, this is where I build me. Most people wake up and immediately hand over their energy to the world. The moment their eyes open, they check their phones, scroll through someone else's life, read texts that distract them, emails that stress them, and headlines that dictate how they should feel. And just like that, they become a product of the outside world, not the creator of their own. But those who rise at 4 a.m., they do it differently. They create before the world even realizes they're awake. Creation in the early hours isn't about writing a bestseller or painting a masterpiece every morning. It's about owning your space. It's about pouring yourself into something that feeds you before the world starts feeding on you. The 4 a.m. mindset says, I don't wait to be inspired. I become the inspiration. I don't wait to be told what to do. I define my direction. Picture a young woman chasing a dream to build her own brand. She has a demanding job. She gets home late. She's exhausted. But instead of sleeping in, she gets up before sunrise. In those precious, quiet hours, she sketches logo ideas, maps her brand story, builds her website. The world thinks she's just another employee. But in the hours before dawn, she becomes a visionary. She's not reacting to life, she's writing it. Or think of a man working 2 jobs to support his family. Life feels like a grind. But he knows if he wakes up at 4 a.m., he can give 1 hour to his novel. The story he's been carrying for years. That hour becomes his rebellion. His way of saying, I'm not just surviving, I'm still creating. I still matter. That's the power of intentional creation. It reminds you who you are when the world forgets. Even a stay-at-home mom who spends her whole day giving to everyone but herself decides to get up at 4 a.m. She sits down with a cup of tea, opens her laptop, and begins learning graphic design. Not because anyone asked her to, but because it makes her soul feel alive. And that, right there, is the moment she takes her life back. Because creating something of your own, even if no one sees it yet, is a quiet revolution. It's how you rise. When you create before the world consumes you, you reclaim your energy. Instead of reacting to messages, you write your own message. Instead of letting the news shape your mindset, you shape your purpose. You don't get out of bed already feeling behind. You wake up ahead. That's not arrogance. That's strategy. You don't need to be a genius to create. You need to be awake mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You need to give yourself permission to show up to the blank page, the yoga mat, the sketch pad, the kitchen, the business plan, whatever your art is. Start before the world pulls you into its chaos. The truth is, once the world is awake, it will demand pieces of you. Work, deadlines, people, problems. It will take everything if you don't keep something sacred for yourself. Creation at 4 a.m. is that sacred space. It's the moment you fill your cup first. Not because you're selfish, but because you're smart enough to know you can't pour from an empty soul. Greatness is built in the quiet. Ideas are born in the silence. Your future is being shaped by what you do before the world even knows you're awake. You either spend your mornings consuming other people's lives, or you use that time to build your own. You get to choose. Not everyone will understand it, but the life you're building will speak louder than their doubt ever could. While the world is still tangled in dreams and snooze buttons, champions are already up. Not to chase the day, but to conquer it before it even begins. Because winners don't wait for the sun to rise to start shining. They rise before the sun and win the day before anyone else even opens their eyes. There's something unshakable about a person who's already done more by 6 a.m. than most will do all day. It's not about being busy, it's about being deliberate. They don't just wake up early, they wake up with intention. They don't leave their emotions to chance or let the day dictate their mood. They set the tone. They write the rules. They don't hope for victory, they design it. Imagine a young girl in college, struggling with self-doubt and peer pressure. Everyone around her is partying late, sleeping in, chasing trends. But she decides to wake up at 4 a.m. She uses that time to read, journal, plan her day, and train her body. That quiet commitment no one sees, that's her edge. Because by the time her peers are waking up, she's already centered, focused, and ahead. That girl isn't waiting for life to give her confidence, she's building it. Hour by hour, before the world even knows she's awake. Picture a man who's been told he's not good enough. He's working a job he hates, buried under bills, forgotten by society. But he sets his alarm for 4 a.m. He works out in his tiny apartment. He reads 2 chapters of a book that feeds his mind. He writes his goals out every single morning with fire in his eyes. He doesn't have much, but in that hour, and that's how kings are made, in secret, in silence, in self-discipline, or a single mom, exhausted from the demands of life, barely holding it together. But before the chaos begins, she gets up early, she breathes, she moves, she speaks affirmations into the mirror, even when her heart is breaking. She's reminding herself, I don't just survive, I own this day. That's not just a routine, that's a revolution. Because when you win the first hour of your day, you carry that energy into every decision, every task, every room. There's no magic formula to success, but there is one pattern that never fails. Own your morning and you own your life. People always say they don't have time, but the truth is, they don't make time. at 4 a.m. There are no texts to answer, no distractions, no noise, just you and your power to choose. Will you scroll or will you stretch? Will you hit snooze on your goals or will you sprint toward them while the rest of the world sleeps? Early rising is not about being better than anyone else. It's about being better than who you were yesterday. It's the mindset of, I don't wait for motivation, I create momentum. Because here's what no one tells you. Success isn't built in loud moments. It's built in the quiet decisions. When no one's watching. When no one claps. When it's just you, the darkness, and your discipline. When you win the morning, the day can't beat you. You've already shown the universe you're serious. You've told your mind, we're not playing today, we're leading. And from that space, every challenge, every obstacle, every conversation feels different. You doesn't need the sun to shine. You are the fire. You are the rhythm. You are the voice that says, I may not control everything in my day, but I will control how it begins. Because real power is created before the world wakes up to witness it. Motivation is fleeting. It's like a spark, exciting, sudden, bright, but it dies just as quickly as it arrives. Discipline, on the other hand, is the slow burning fire that never goes out. And let's be honest, there is nothing sexier than a person who keeps showing up, even when they don't feel like it. Because that kind of consistency, that kind of quiet power, that's rare. And rare is always attractive. You see, motivation comes and goes with mood. Discipline shows up regardless of mood. It doesn't care if you're tired, emotional, heartbroken, or uninspired. Discipline is that inner voice whispering, we made a promise. Now let's keep it. And that level of loyalty to yourself is magnetic. Think about a girl who wants to transform her body. Day one, she's motivated. She buys the leggings, downloads the workout app, makes a smoothie. But a week in, the hype fades. Her muscles ache, her cravings scream, and the mirror hasn't changed. That's the moment most people quit. But not her. She gets up, ties her hair, and shows up anyway. Not because she's motivated, but because she said she would. She's not chasing results anymore. She's becoming the woman who doesn't need motivation to move. That girl is unstoppable. Or a young man trying to build a business. Everyone around him is posting luxury lifestyles on social media, talking about overnight success. But he knows the truth. Success isn't sexy. Discipline is. He doesn't go out every weekend. He studies, builds, learns, sacrifices. He smiles because they don't see it yet, but in every boring, unglamorous hour he puts in, he's building a life they'll one day envy. Even in relationships, discipline is what makes someone irresistible. Motivation gets you the date. Discipline builds the connection. It's in the partner who consistently shows up, listens, supports, and stays grounded. Not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. Anyone can make promises, but discipline is how you keep them. And let's be real, there's nothing more attractive than someone who does what they say they'll do, every single time. Motivation is all about feeling. Discipline is all about integrity. It's about waking up at 4 a.m. because you said you would. It's about working on your dream even when your heart is broken. It's studying for the exam while your friends are out. It's choosing to eat clean when no one's watching. It's all those silent choices that no one claps for, but that build a version of you no one can ignore. There's a reason why people with discipline glow differently. Their energy says, I trust myself. They walk into rooms and don't need to prove anything because they know they've earned it in private. That's the kind of power that doesn't need validation. It radiates. Discipline makes you attractive not just to others, but to yourself. You start respecting yourself more. You speak to yourself differently. You walk taller because you've tasted the strength of keeping promises to your soul. And no amount of compliments, likes, or applause can replace that kind of internal pride. And here's the plot twist. When you stay disciplined long enough, motivation finds you again. But this time, it bows down to your consistency. Because now, you're not driven by emotion, you're driven by purpose. You're not here to feel good. You're here to be great. That's what makes discipline so damn powerful. It doesn't beg for attention. It doesn't chase hype. It just shows up silently and relentlessly. And over time, that quiet discipline becomes the loudest thing in the room. Your morning is not just a routine. It's your throne. It's the one time in the day that belongs entirely to you before the world starts making demands, pulling at your energy, your emotions, your spirit. And if you truly want to rise, to glow, to lead, you have to protect your morning like a queen guards her crown. Because without her crown, even a queen starts to forget who she is. You don't let just anyone touch your crown. So why do you let chaos touch your morning? Why do you give your peace away to emails, to notifications, to someone else's crisis before you've even had a moment to breathe? A queen's power doesn't begin with her speech or her presence in the crowd. It begins in the quiet of her palace, in the stillness of her preparation. And your palace is that first hour after you wake up. Imagine a woman with dreams bigger than her circumstances. Her life is loud, her responsibilities endless, her world constantly testing her limits. But her morning, that belongs to her. She wakes up at 4 a.m., no noise, just her journal, her breath, her coffee, her thought. She doesn't scroll, she sculpts herself. She doesn't react, she reigns. And that's not just a routine, it's a ritual. That's how she sharpens her crown before the world sees her shine. Think about a man buried in bills, doubt and depression. He's tired, but he's decided that his morning is sacred. Before anyone asks him for anything, he gives himself everything he needs. 20 minutes of movement, 10 minutes of prayer, 15 minutes of silence. No excuses, no distractions. Because he's not just surviving anymore, he's disciplining himself into a king. That hour in the morning is his declaration. I may not control my day, but I will command how it begins. Or a mother of 3 who's always giving, always pouring, always last on her own list. But she carves out 30 minutes in the morning just for herself, to stretch, to speak affirmations, to reconnect with her power before her day gets hijacked. She protects that time like it's gold, because it is. And that's what makes her unstoppable. Not because she has more time, but because she knows how to guard her time like royalty. Your crown is your clarity, your discipline, your peace. And the world will try to snatch it every morning through alarms, bad news, people's energy, and the rush of routine. But the Queen knows, you can't serve from an empty throne. You must sit in your power before you stand for anyone else. So you build walls around your morning, not to isolate yourself, but to elevate yourself. You rise before the noise. You breathe before the battle. You decide how you'll feel, how you'll think, how you'll move. Because once you own your morning, no one can take that ownership from you. You're not waiting for the world to crown you. You've already crowned yourself in pride. There's something wildly magnetic about a person who protects their peace. It shows in their posture. It speaks in their tone. It reflects in how they show up. Not flustered, not reactive, but intentional. They've rehearsed their power in the early hours while the rest of the world slept on theirs. The secret to every queen's grace is not what she wears, it's what she practices when no one's looking. And that grace, that balance, that wisdom, that fire, it's all born in the morning. In those sacred moments you refuse to let the world steal. Because once you give your morning away, you're no longer leading the day. You're being led by it. And queens, real queens never follow chaos. They command calm. They protect their crown. They own the throne before they step into the world. You're not late. You're not stuck. You're not a failure. You're just one decision away from flipping the entire script of your life. One decision, that's it. Not 10 steps, not a full-blown plan, just one bold, terrifying, soul-altering choice. And don't let anyone convince you that your timing is off. Because your journey doesn't need to look like theirs to be divine. Comparison is a liar with a loud voice. It'll scream at you. She's already married. He's already rich. They already made it. But what it won't tell you is the storms they survived to get there. What it won't show you is the nights they cried behind success. And guess what? Even they had to make that one decision that changed everything. 24 years old, college degree in hand, but working in a cafe because her dreams didn't unfold on schedule. Her friends post glamorous updates while she wipes tables and smiles through judgment. But one morning she decides, I won't let this be my final story. She enrolls in an online class at 4 a.m. before her shift. She chooses growth over shame. She doesn't have the answers, but she has the will. That decision, it cracked open the door to the life she was meant to lead. One small act of rebellion against regret. That's how greatness begins. Or a man in his 40s, laid off, broke, bitter, and battling depression. Everyone around him says, start over? Now? But deep inside he knows the truth. I'm still alive. And as long as I'm alive, I'm not done. So he picks up the phone and signs up for that business course. Just one click. That's it. But that one decision, it pulls him out of the dark. It reminds him who he was before the world told him who to be. And 5 years later, he's not just successful, he's legendary. Because he chose courage over comfort when it mattered most. Even the strongest among us have moments where we feel behind. That sinking feeling like everyone's passing you, like you missed the train, like time laughed and walked away. Bold choice, and everything shifts. You don't need a restart, you just need a redirect. A mother who spent a decade raising her children, sacrificing her career, her time, her identity. She wakes up one morning and decides to write again. Not for likes, not for fame, but because her soul whispered, it's time to come back to yourself. That one decision, putting pen to paper, reawakened the fire that motherhood had gently tucked away. She didn't lose herself, she just paused. And now she's back, not as who she was, but as who she was always meant to be. One decision, that's all it takes to start a revolution inside you. A single act of self-respect, a single moment of bravery, a single refusal to stay small. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to choose something different. Every powerful person you admire, they weren't born confident. They weren't handed clarity. They created it with decisions that terrified them. So stop asking, am I too late? And start asking, what can I choose today that future me will thank me for? Because truthfully, you're not behind. You're just standing at the edge of a breakthrough. The next chapter of your life is waiting to be written, but it needs you to pick up the pen. And maybe, just maybe, the life you've been dreaming about is sitting quietly behind the door marked, one brave decision. You see, the world doesn't reward those who wake up the earliest. It rewards those who wake up with intention. The 4 a.m. mindset is not about time. It's about transformation. It's about declaring to the universe, I will not live another day on autopilot. While others are asleep, literally and mentally, you are rising, you are building, you are preparing. And when the sun finally breaks through the horizon, you've already won. Not because everything went right, but because you showed up for yourself before the world demanded you show up for everyone else. Remember this, how you start is how you finish. If you wake up consumed, you'll live consumed. But if you wake up clear, calm, and committed, the world bows differently. That silence you meet at 4 a.m., it's sacred. It's the only time when the world is quiet enough for you to hear your own soul. That's not just power, that's divine clarity. That's when you remember, you are not just here to survive, you are here to create, to lead, to conquer. Think of the greats, legends, icons, world changers. They weren't made during the spotlight. They were made in silence, in the grind, in the hours when no one clapped, no one noticed, and no one cared. That's where character is carved. That's where destiny is designed. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. But imagine what happens when talent does wake up early, sharpened by discipline, fueled by self-respect. Now you're unstoppable. Let's be real. There will be days when your bed will seduce you more than your dreams, when your excuses will sound like logic, when hitting snooze feels easier than hitting your goals. But if you want to rise, you must remember, comfort never made anyone a legend. Discomfort is the doorway to domination. The crown you want, the lifestyle, the mindset, the freedom, the respect, it's not waiting for someone lucky. It's waiting for someone relentless. Let them sleep while you grind. Let them doubt while you decide. Let them talk while you transform. And when they ask how you did it, smile and say, I made a decision when no one was watching. That's the power of the 4 a.m. mindset. It teaches you that victory isn't loud. Victory is quiet. It's made in choices that no one sees, in hours no one respects, and in disciplines no one applauds, until they can't ignore you anymore. This is your wake-up call, not just to rise from your bed, but to rise into your becoming. You are one decision away from a life you don't need a vacation from. One morning away from momentum. One choice away from greatness. Don't wait for motivation. It's fleeting. Become disciplined. It's forever. Your future self is begging you to fight for her, to show up for her, to build for her, so she can look back and say, thank you for not quitting on me. Never forget, you don't get what you wish for, you get what you work for. You get what you wake up for, you get what you bleed for in silence before the applause. So get up, create, train, journal, meditate, run, write, learn, heal. Whatever it is, do it before the world wakes up and steals your peace. Because in that golden silence, when the stars are still out and the air is crisp with promise, that's where legends are born. That's where queens fix their crowns. That's where warriors sharpen their minds. You are not ordinary. You are not average. You are not behind. You are just one bold morning away from becoming unforgettable. The world doesn't need more people fitting in. It needs more people rising before the noise. You are that person. Now go. Wake up the fire and let the world watch it burn.